Shut your eyes for a moment. Imagine walking into a massive library where every shelf holds history textbooks. Pick one up. Egypt, 3100 BCE, the birth of writing. Another book. Mesopotamia, 3500 BCE, humanity's first urban centers. One more. China, 2000 BCE, the beginning of dynasties. This is the official record, the accepted timeline, the moment when civilizations supposedly began. Now, open your eyes, because that entire library is built on incomplete information. Long before any scribe pressed symbols into clay, long before the first pharaoh wore a crown, long before priests climbed the steps of Mesopotamian temples, there were others. Communities that constructed massive stone complexes, relocated enormous blocks weighing tons, studied celestial movements, and even conducted medical procedures. Then they disappeared, leaving structures so advanced that today's experts remain baffled. This is not folklore. This is not ancient mythology. These are physical locations you can fly to tomorrow, real objects sitting in museums, hard evidence that has been radiocarbon tested, dug up by professional teams, and written about in serious academic publications. The problem is simple. They do not match the story we have been taught. They show up in the archaeological record millennia before they should. Think about discovering a jet engine buried in the ruins of ancient Rome, that level of impossibility. Except instead of engines, we are finding advanced knowledge of the cosmos, complex surgical techniques, and architectural feats that required thousands of workers, all appearing at a time when humans were supposedly primitive wanderers. The question is not if these places are real. They are. Anyone can visit them. The real question cuts deeper. Who were the builders? How did they accomplish these feats? And why does acknowledging their existence threaten to collapse our entire understanding of human progress? The Eternal City. For 11,600 years, humans have occupied one location without interruption. Empires rose and collapsed, languages emerged and died, ice ages concluded, stone gave way to bronze, bronze surrendered to iron. Throughout all of it, people inhabited Jericho. But here is the contradiction. 10,000 years ago, before farming existed, before pottery was invented, before anyone theoretically needed fortifications, they constructed a stone tower 28 feet tall and a wall 12 feet high surrounding the settlement. Nothing existed to defend against, so why construct defenses? Jericho appears in biblical texts as the city whose walls collapsed to Joshua's trumpets. But during the 1950s, archaeologist Kathleen Kenyon excavated deeper through successive occupation layers and discovered something far more ancient. Pre-pottery Neolithic A structures from 8000 BCE. A stone tower and wall built by people who had not yet developed clay pottery. Continuous human occupation extends from 9600 BCE to today. The stone tower stands 28 feet tall, 30 feet in diameter, containing an internal staircase with 22 steps. The stone wall measures 12 feet high and 6 feet thick. This construction preceded the appearance of domesticated wheat in the region. Population reached 2,000 to 3,000 during the Neolithic peak. The tell rises over 70 feet from 11,000 years of continuous rebuilding.
Plastered skulls, extracted from burials and covered in plaster with cowrie shell eyes, were discovered beneath house floors, indicating ancestor veneration or early attempts at portraiture. Mainstream archaeology proposes the tower and wall served non-military purposes, perhaps flood protection, communal storage, or ritual functions. Some suggest the tower functioned as an astronomical observatory, but 12-foot stone walls require enormous labor investment. The tower's internal staircase implies watchtower purpose. Watching for what?
Equality in stone. Walk through a city housing 10,000 people, but there are no streets, no alleyways, no ground-level doors. Houses connect wall to wall like cells in a honeycomb. To reach your home, you climb a ladder to the roof, walk across your neighbor's rooftops, and descend through an opening in your ceiling. Beneath the floor where you sleep, 60 of your ancestors lie buried. Despite 10,000 people compressed into tight quarters, there are no palaces, no temples, no visible rulers. This is Catalhöyük, dating to 7500 BCE, and it contradicts every understanding of how urban societies operate. First discovered in 1958 by James Millart and extensively excavated since 1993 by Ian Hodder from Stanford, Catalhöyük ranks among the largest and best preserved Neolithic sites globally. The 32-acre settlement housed 5,000 to 10,000 people at peak occupation around 7000 BCE, larger than most cities for the following 3,000 years. Every known civilization displays hierarchy: kings, priests, chiefs, councils. Someone makes decisions, someone settles disputes. Catalhöyük exhibits none of this. Houses were virtually identical in dimensions, construction methods, and internal layout. No elite residences, no administrative structures, no defensive fortifications. Entry required climbing ladders through roof hatches. Rooftops functioned as streets. Burials beneath house floors sometimes contained up to 60 skeletons, indicating ancestor-based identity. Bull skull decorations and elaborate wall paintings appeared in numerous homes, not concentrated in special buildings. The culture practiced sophisticated agriculture, animal domestication, obsidian tool-making, and pottery. For 2,000 years, 10,000 people maintained urban equality. Then, around 5700 BCE, mysterious abandonment. What social mechanisms made it function, and why did this approach vanish? Surgery before civilization. Your tooth is killing you. The infection has spread into your jaw, sending waves of agony through your skull. A healer gestures for you to sit. They pull out a bow drill, the exact same tool craftsmen use to punch holes in stone beads, and position it against your infected molar. No drugs for the pain, no metal instruments, only flint and steady pressure. The drill penetrates 3 millimeters into your living tooth, creating a perfectly conical hole. You survive the procedure. You live another 2 decades with a successfully treated tooth. This is not medieval torture or fiction. This is Mehrgarh, located in Pakistan, dated to 7000 BCE. 9,000 years before the present, before cities existed, before anyone wrote anything down, before bronze was discovered. A French archaeologist named Jean-François Jarrigue started excavating Mehrgarh in 1974, uncovering an advanced Neolithic community. But in 2006, scientists published research in the journal Nature that stunned medical professionals worldwide. 11 drilled molars discovered in 9 adult skeletons, undeniable proof that patients were living when the procedures occurred. This was not experimentation, this was systematic dental medicine. The level of skill is remarkable.
drill holes measuring 1 to 3 millimeters across, penetrating up to 3.5 millimeters deep. Conical, cylindrical, and trapezoidal shapes indicating different approaches for different dental issues. Tooth growth analysis proves patients survived years following treatment. This was not practiced on the dead. This was health care. Think about the requirements: understanding human anatomy, recognizing infection, engineering specialized tools, managing patient pain. Most puzzling, this knowledge appears complete. No obvious period of failed experiments, no gradual development we can track. The settlement operated continuously for 4,500 years, indicating expertise transmitted across countless generations. Where did this medical knowledge begin? What other healing techniques existed in societies before writing that could not leave records? How many generations of trial and refinement occurred before the first successful operation?
What's good, everybody? Before we continue into today's analysis, I want to know something. Where in the world is my content reaching? Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. What city? What state? What country? I love seeing how far this community stretches, so don't be shy. Represent your location in the comments right now.
The submerged ruins. 75 feet below the ocean surface off the Japanese coastline. The water is cold and cloudy. You can barely see 10 feet ahead. Your diving light sweeps across the murky blue and catches something impossible. A wall. Not rocks randomly piled by nature. A straight edge. You kick closer. Flat platforms. Carved steps, perfect 90-degree corners, a massive formation stretching 150 feet, rising like a submerged pyramid. This is Yonaguni. 4,000 miles away off India's western coast near Gujarat, other divers discover matching evidence: stone structures, ancient pottery fragments, anchors, the remains of what appears to be an entire urban settlement resting on the seabed. Both locations share one impossible characteristic. Their depth means they could only have been above water during the last ice age, more than 10,000 years in the past. A Japanese dive tour operator named Kihachiro Aratake found Yonaguni in 1986 while searching for sharks. Marine geologist Masaki Kimura dedicated decades to studying it, arguing that 70% shows clear signs of human modification. Simultaneously, archaeological surveys in India kept discovering structures matching descriptions from ancient Hindu scriptures about Dwarka, the magnificent city of Lord Krishna that legends say the ocean swallowed. The evidence demands attention. Yonaguni displays 90-degree angles connecting to flat terraces and symmetrical staircases, possible faces carved into rock, pathways crossing the formation. At Dwarka, stone walls emerge from sand alongside pottery shards and seals bearing ancient script. Both sites align with sea level changes when Ice Age glaciers melted, flooding coastlines beneath 400 feet of rising water. Critics insist these are natural formations. Tectonic forces and erosion can crack rock into geometric shapes, but the timing creates questions. Every ancient culture preserves flood legends, stories about catastrophic water destroying earlier worlds. What if these are not myths, but memories? Humanity has explored less than 5% of the ocean floor. If coastal settlements existed when seas stood hundreds of feet lower, their remains now rest underwater. How many submerged cities remain undiscovered?
10,000 years of memory. Someone approaches and describes your childhood home with perfect accuracy. The layout of streets, the fence around your property, the tree that grew in your front yard. Impressive, certainly. Now imagine they describe your great-great-grandfather's childhood home with equal accuracy. That seems impossible. Now imagine they describe a landscape submerged beneath ocean water for 10,000 years, and every detail checks out? This is exactly what Australian Aboriginal oral traditions accomplish. During the 2010s, a linguist named Nicholas Reed and a geographer named Patrick Nunn started systematically comparing Aboriginal stories against geological sea level records. What they discovered was remarkable. Stories transmitted across more than 400 generations accurately described coastlines, islands, and geographical features that have not existed since the Ice Age concluded. The Kulin people describe Port Phillip Bay as dry land suitable for hunting with a river running through it. Geological research confirms it remained above water until approximately 10,000 years ago. Ngarrindjeri oral histories name specific islands and fishing locations in Spencer Gulf that are now underwater. Sonar mapping verifies their positions exactly where the stories place them. Stories describe ancestors walking to Tasmania across Bass Strait. That land connection drowned around 12,000 years ago when seas climbed 300 feet. Gunditjmara traditions say their people walked to Kangaroo Island. It became separated from the mainland approximately 11,000 years ago. Some oral histories even describe megafauna, the giant animals that went extinct 40,000 years ago. Mainstream academics argue stories naturally evolved, absorbing universal flood myths common to all cultures. Any geographical accuracy must be coincidental, but the specificity cannot be dismissed. These are not vague legends. They identify specific locations, describe particular features, and match geological records point by point. 400 to 500 generations of flawless transmission. If 10,000-year oral memory proves possible, what other knowledge did ancient humans preserve? And what was lost when we dismissed oral tradition as unreliable?
The Impossible Sanctuary. Southeast Turkey. The year is 9600 BCE. Stand on top of this empty hill where nothing grows but thorny shrubs and scattered rocks. Look around. Not a single farm exists on this planet. The written word will not be invented for another 6,000 years. Towns and cities are purely theoretical concepts. Every human being alive moves in small hunting parties, tracking wild game and collecting whatever plants they can find. Yet beneath your feet lies a carved limestone column that weighs 20 tons. It rises 20 feet into the air, decorated with elaborate images of wild animals. Foxes, lions, scorpions, carved with precision. Around it, hundreds more pillars arranged in perfect circles. This is Göbekli Tepe, the Potbelly Hill, and it destroys everything archaeologists thought they knew. In 1994, a German named Klaus Schmidt arrived at a site that local shepherds had known about forever. What he uncovered changed human history overnight. More than 200 massive T-shaped pillars organized into at least 20 circular arrangements. Ground-penetrating radar indicates that 95% still lies underground. These were not constructed by settled farmers. Hunter-gatherers built this, people who supposedly lived hand to mouth. Consider the engineering challenge, extracting 20-ton blocks from quarries without metal picks, moving them without wheeled carts, carving detailed animal reliefs without iron chisels, coordinating hundreds of laborers without a food surplus to feed them. How did nomads pull this off? Where did the workforce originate? Most bizarre of all, this was never a village. No houses, no trash heaps, pure ceremony. Then, around 8000 BCE, somebody made a decision. They deliberately filled the entire site with rubble and abandoned it. Some scientists think the carvings document astronomical phenomena. Others wonder if this represents not the start of civilization, but a surviving fragment of something far older, something that has been lost to time. The sanctuary remains there today, mostly still buried, guarding mysteries from an age when textbooks insist humans lacked the capacity to create it.
Egypt, 3000 BCE. The first pyramids are under construction. Pharaohs lead armies. Weapons fill burial chambers. Fortified walls protect cities. Warfare appears to be the engine driving civilization forward. Dominate or be dominated. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic Ocean, in Peru's coastal valleys, another civilization is constructing pyramids equally massive. But when archaeologists excavate, something is absent. No weapons, no defensive walls, no traumatic injuries visible on skeletal remains. For 1200 years, Corral flourished without warfare. The site had been known since the early 1900s, but dismissed as unimportant. In 1994, a Peruvian archaeologist named Ruth Shady Solis began excavations and recognized what everyone had overlooked. Corral was 5,000 years old, making it the oldest urban center in the Americas, contemporary with Egypt and Mesopotamia, and completely unique. Civilization supposedly requires force. Kings compel peasants to labor. Armies protect resources. Warfare stimulates innovation. Corral possessed none of this. The primary city covers 150 acres with 6 major pyramids. The largest stands 60 feet tall with a base of 500 by 450 feet. The Norte Chico civilization included 30 settlements across coastal valleys, with populations numbering in the thousands. Construction dates from 3000 to 1800 BCE. Zero warfare evidence exists. No weapons such as spears or maces, no fortifications, no trauma visible on skeletal remains, no warrior imagery in artwork, which shows only musicians and animals. Their economic system exchanged cotton and fish from coastal areas for food from highland regions. Advanced irrigation canals and quipu knotted record-keeping demonstrate organizational sophistication. For 1,200 years, they chose not to develop military capacity, despite constructing pyramids. What dispute resolution mechanisms did they employ? And could modern civilization learn from their approach?
The desert astronomers. The Sahara Desert, 7,000 years before present. Imagine nomadic herders traveling with their cattle, following seasonal rains, following grass, living with no permanent structures, no written language, surviving one season at a time. Now imagine them pausing beside a temporary lake, gazing upward at the stars, and constructing a stone circle aligned to the summer solstice with accuracy that would not be matched until the invention of telescopes. This is Nabta Playa, 2,000 years older than the first Egyptian pyramid. An archaeologist named Fred Wendorf discovered the site in 1974, 500 miles south of Cairo in the Egyptian desert. But not until 1998 did an astrophysicist named Thomas Brophy analyze the stone placements and understand they were not accidental. They formed an astronomical observatory and calendar created by people who supposedly possessed no scientific knowledge. The main stone circle spans roughly 12 feet, with additional megaliths positioned around it.
Its calendar function marks summer solstice sunrise with precision. Alignments indicate Orion's belt, Sirius, and potentially Alpha Centauri, calculated for approximately 6000 BCE. Statistical testing confirms intentional astronomical encoding, not random chance. Construction occurred during the African humid period, from 9000 to 5500 BCE, when the Sahara consisted of green grasslands dotted with seasonal lakes. The structure predates Stonehenge by roughly 4,000 years. It predates Egyptian temple astronomy by more than 2,000 years. When desertification started around 5500 BCE, the site was left behind. Some scientists argue the alignments encode star positions from 17,000 years ago, knowledge inherited from a much older tradition. When the Sahara completed its transformation to desert around 3500 BCE, these cattle herders migrated toward the Nile Valley. Did they transport astronomical knowledge that mysteriously appears in Egyptian temples? How did nomads without writing preserve sophisticated mathematical and astronomical information across generations? What occurred to this knowledge system when the desert consumed their territory?
The hunters who built monuments. Imagine relocating 1 million cubic yards of earth using only baskets. Using your bare hands. No wheeled vehicles, no metal shovels, no domesticated animals to assist. You would require hundreds of people working for decades. Now imagine accomplishing this without farming, while hunting animals and gathering plants for your daily food. This is Poverty Point, Louisiana, 3,700 years ago, and it measures 3/4 of a mile across. Local people knew about the earthworks for centuries, but nobody recognized them as ancient until the 1950s. In 2014, UNESCO designated it a World Heritage Site, finally acknowledging it as the largest and most sophisticated earthwork constructed by hunter-gatherers anywhere on Earth. Hunter-gatherers who textbooks say do not build cities. 6 concentric C-shaped earthen ridges climb 4 to 6 feet high, separated by 140 to 200 feet, spanning 3/4 of a mile in diameter. Engineers calculate 1 million cubic yards of soil were relocated by hand. The central plaza encompasses 37 acres. Nearby stands Mound A, rising 72 feet tall and measuring 700 feet across its base. Population estimates indicate 500 to 1,000 permanent inhabitants, expanding to 5,000 during seasonal gatherings. Dietary analysis shows complete absence of agriculture. Only fish, waterfowl, deer, and nuts, exclusively wild resources. A trade network extended 1,000 miles, importing copper from the Great Lakes region and stone from Appalachia. More than 100,000 baked clay cooking balls scatter across the site, utilized as heated stones in earth ovens. Some scientists claim astronomical alignments exist, though this remains controversial. Around 1100 BCE, the site was abandoned. No signs of warfare or starvation. They simply departed. From Turkey to Japan, from Egypt to Peru, from the Balkans to Louisiana, a pattern reveals itself. Advanced engineering before farming, astronomical knowledge before writing, surgical skill before cities, urban living without hierarchy, civilization without violence, memory extending 10,000 years. These are not isolated oddities, they are windows into hidden history. Human creativity, intelligence, and organization that existed millennia before the official timeline acknowledges possibility. Mainstream archaeology claims these are impressive but explainable. Human advancement was slow, uneven, but fundamentally linear. The alternative perspective asks different questions. What if advancement is not linear? What if knowledge was acquired, lost, and reacquired? What if prehistoric humans possessed the same capabilities as modern people, simply employing different tools, different systems, leaving ruins we cannot properly interpret? We label them prehistoric because they left no writing. But as Aboriginal traditions demonstrate, writing is not the sole method for preserving knowledge. Perhaps we have been searching for the wrong evidence. Perhaps civilization does not require monarchs, armies, or conquest. Perhaps Corral and Catalhöyük demonstrated that, and we have forgotten. The sites exist. The dates are confirmed. The questions persist unanswered. Were these isolated accomplishments or fragments of something larger, something we have barely begun to uncover? Most visitors walk through museums, glance briefly at Stone Age displays, and proceed to Rome or Egypt, the supposedly important material. But you made it here. You recognize the pattern. You are asking the questions they prefer you do not ask. This channel exists for people who reject the textbook story. If that describes you, subscribe, because this is only the beginning. And in the comments, tell me which of these 10 civilizations you consider the smoking gun. Which one shatters the timeline beyond repair? Defend your position. Convince me. Let's see who constructs the most compelling argument. History is not a straight line. It is a circle. Civilizations rise, collapse, and are forgotten. Knowledge is acquired, lost, and rediscovered. We believe we are the first to achieve this level, but the stones of Göbekli Tepe, the walls of Jericho, and the drowned cities beneath the ocean whisper a different truth. We have been here before. Subscribe. The past is not what they told you.